John legend Kelly Clarkson and Adam Levine are competing to see who can score the most artists who receive triple chair turns in this season's added inter-coach portion of The Voice Battle of Champions. The award? A fantastic steal for the winning coach throughout the battles. However, during the blind auditions, the three champions are also holding an unofficial competition for country musicians. Though Clarkson's connection to the country music business may be the strongest, she is neither Kelsey Ballerini nor Reba McEntire. Nowadays, the coaches of The Voice take satisfaction in being chosen by a country performer. Legend was thrilled to sign Kendra Remedios, a 31-year-old native of Arlington, Texas, for this reason. She sang Little Big Town's Girl Crush while wearing a cowgirl hat, earning a chair turn from the EGOT winner. I was powerless to resist. Legend told her, "I'm fortunate I have you all to myself. I heard that voice just crackling the way it does, and I love the crackle. I love that Texas grit. I love to see a Texas girl shine," exclaimed Clarkson, a fellow Texan. Levin clarified that he didn't turn because of some pitch problems, but the All of Me singer could hear country, rock, soul, blues in her voice. Thus, she was always destined to be on Team Legend. "I sort of lead two lives." Regarding her professional background, Remedios said, "I have cleaned some really awesome people's teeth. By day, I am a dental hygienist, and at night, I am a country artist." Remedios clarified that her dad's health issues, following a brain aneurysm, halted her plans to travel to Nashville to pursue music full-time after she graduated from high school, and that he has since passed away. Dad would be quite pleased. Backstage, the singer's mother informed her that her son will be both sobbing and supporting her. The hidden fourth coach this season, according to Remedios, is her late father. "I hear my dad in my head all the time," she continued. "The best seat in the house belongs to him." The usual red seats were arranged like silent judges waiting to be impressed, the crowd was restless, and the studio lights were hot. Everyone in the audience was unaware that they were about to see one of those unique moments that endure long after the applause has subsided, but it was just another night on The Voice. There was nothing ostentatious about the next competitor's entrance onto the stage. No grand entrance. Don't wave too loudly at the crowd. Just a serene, grounded presence that seemed almost out of place in a society full of glitz and great names. With a quiet assurance, the artist identified themselves and stated that they were from a little Texas town. They didn't sound arrogant when they stated Texas. It felt proud, rooted. The band began to play. Something changed in the atmosphere from the first note. It wasn't a polished voice in the conventional sense. It wasn't completely rounded at the edges or silky smooth. It had a texture, weathered, similar to a match striking a stone. It carried a sort of unadulterated electricity. The tone had a crackling that sounded lived in, like gravel. It sounded like endless roads at dusk, like neon-lit dive bars, like heartbreak that never really went away but yet managed to sing. It was grit from Texas. It was also hard to ignore. At first, the coaches listened intently while sitting motionless. It was evident in their faces. They were listening to more than simply a show. They were researching it. With a soft rasp, the performer leaned into the lyrics, twisting sounds just enough to cause pain. It wasn't about showcasing vocal gymnastics or hitting every run. It has to do with narrative, and it was risky because of it. One of the coaches leaned forward halfway through the opening verse. Not because it was a larger note. However, it was more accurate. There is a distinction. The crackle erupted into a flame when the chorus began. Just enough effort was made by the singer to highlight the roughness. There was no sense of coercion. It seemed to have waited for the ideal moment all along. The crowd surged, applauding in time, consuming that very Southern spirit. Then it took place. The red button was in the vicinity of John Legend's hand. The debate within was visible. John is renowned for having a sophisticated ear and appreciating musicality, phrasing, and accuracy. He is drawn to voices that are elegant and flow naturally between tunes. However, this was not a glide, it was a stomp. This was campfire firewood popping. He was unable to resist though. His chair whirled around with a forceful blow. The crowd blew up. John's expression said it all. Almost as though he shocked himself, he smiled broadly and raised his eyebrows. Now completely in it, he nodded along. The remaining coaches swiftly trailed after. One more chair rotated. Then another. All 4 chairs were facing the stage by the time the last chorus filled the room. There are 4 chairs, for grit. The vocalist ended the show with moderation rather than a spectacular high note. The crackle lingered in the air after a deliberate fading. A half-second of silence ensued. A standing ovation follows. The emotion struck the artists hard when they opened their eyes and saw the seats turned. Hands over the mouth. A laugh of disbelief. Standing boldly in the middle of that stage is Texas pride. Tonight, it was up to the current roster to prove their point, but the audience joked that Blake Shelton would have enjoyed this one. John was the first to speak. He leaned forward with his elbows resting on his knees and said, "I'm not sure what it is about that texture in your voice. It's not flawless, and I mean that as positively as possible. It is a human. It's truthful. It just draws you in with its smoldering, Texas grit." At that line, the audience cheered. There's something so compelling about a voice that sounds like it's lived through something. He went on. You sing more than just the lyrics. You mean it. Another coach added, complimenting the sincerity. On a platform that frequently rewards great theatrics, they discussed how uncommon it is to hear someone remain so rooted in their individuality. Still attempting to take it all in, the artist nodded. The singer said a little more about their journey when it was their chance to speak. Being surrounded by Southern rock, blues, and country music as a child. Singing in intimate settings. Understanding early on that power does not necessarily come from a clean note. The artist grinned and said, "My grandfather used to say that if something is too smooth, it probably isn't real." The room was won over by that cue alone. John chuckled, obviously enchanted. He answered simply, "Well, I like real." The topic of coaching styles came up. Why should Team Legend include this Texas powerhouse? John thoughtfully leaned into his pitch. He remarked, "You have this amazing raw foundation. Helping you grow without losing that grit is what excites me. We don't minimize your individuality. We make it louder. I want to help you come up with fresh methods to share your story. You might even be surprised. It was there. Not a pledge to alter them. A pledge to expand upon them." The other coaches also presented compelling arguments. They discussed commercial appeal, stage presence, and genre alignment. But there was something about John's strategy that seemed right. The voice wasn't something he wanted to change. He desired to frame it. The artist inhaled deeply after a few uncomfortable moments. They said, "I came here to grow. But that Texas grit is something I want to keep forever." They gave John a look. "And I believe you understand that." When they selected Team Legend, the studio erupted. At the beginning of the evening, nobody anticipated this coupling. The gravel-voiced Texan and the refined EGOT winner. However, it was precisely that difference that added appeal. The chemistry was electrifying throughout the next week's rehearsals. John paid close attention and gave advice on dynamics and phrasing without pressuring the artist to change their texture. Rather, he urged them to investigate the softness that exists within the grit, to locate vulnerable points in between the flames. John paused in the middle of a song during one rehearsal run. "That's right there," he said, "when you retreated prior to the chorus. That has a lot of power. Grit doesn't have to be loud all the time. It whispers occasionally." The artist took it in and nodded. They started doing experiments, allowing some lines to breathe, letting the quiet do some of the talking. Their voice started to crackle less accidentally and more deliberately. It changed from being raw to becoming artistic. Anticipation was strong by the time the battle rounds arrived. The term Texas grit had already become popular among viewers, becoming a hot hashtag on the internet. Supporters questioned if John could really coach a voice with such a Southern soul foundation. He could, as the fight performance shown. The Texan capitalized on their strength when paired with a vocalist that was technically perfect. Like lightning through clouds, the crackle sliced through harmonies. However, there was subtlety this time. Command, strategic moderation. People heard more than just grit when the last note rang out. It was expansion. John picked them out of the blue. That distinctive texture turned become the artist's defining characteristic as the competition went on, week after week. But seeing the layers come to light was what really made the voyage interesting. There was still grit, but now there was softness as well. It carried the accuracy of storytelling. It carried evolution.